Still asleep. Still keeping it easy. That's Jimbers. So hello. Well, today I'd like to take a look at some more photos I've got. These are from my time spent in Australia. For most of the 1980s, I lived in Australia. My father was a management trainer, and he went out there doing a contract to train Australian managers from various different companies for various different places all around Australia. We went to Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, ACT, Australian Capital Territory, New South Wales. So all over really in the sort of Western hemispheres. And in Melbourne, did I mention Melbourne? We went to Melbourne, in Victoria, you know, the state of Victoria. So the states I went to were Queensland, Southern Australia, Victoria, and Australian Capital Territory. So well, yeah, there you go. I never got to Perth. Shout out to you, John, mate. No, be careful what you say. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, mate. You know, I made a faux pas there, didn't I? But I'll do it. Hang on a bit. Bear with me. So that's a Monaro. That's a Monaro, and I liked it. Oh, that's why I took the picture of it, isn't it? That's in Queensland. That's in Brisbane. That's in a place called Kedron, which was a suburb where my family lived at the time. We had one of these little wooden sort of houses we rented out. I don't even know if that's not the one actually at the back there, see? I think it is in actual fact. And they had these largish trucks. I haven't quite captured it fully there, but that truck actually has another version of it on the back as well. And I think a lot of the, what do the Aussies call them? Semis or something, semi-trailers, mate. Ah, g'day, mate. How's your semi-trailer going? Feeling good? No, ain't good. Rock and roll. Fair dinkum, mate. That's a sort of a view from my bedroom window over Kedron. And these are some friends that used to work wood shop, you know. They had, I can't remember their names now, unfortunately. Ruth and Charlie. Good God, that's how things come back to your mind. That's a lady called Ruth, and that was called Charlie Rosewarne, their names were. They're long dead now, unfortunately. And that's their dog, Stinker or something they used to call it. And that's Charlie's brother. I don't know who the dude in the back is, because I don't remember everything. That's me, overlooking the Norton Summit, which is in the Adelaide Hills. Fantastic. Really enjoyed being in Adelaide. That's sort of what you're looking at when you're in Adelaide. It's very rocky terrain. It's a very arid, dry place. You've got to be very careful that you don't die of thirst out there, you know, stuff like that. Very easy to do such things. I used to do a lot of camping because it was the cheapest way of living. When I was living in Australia, as it were, I was just trying to travel around as much as I could. That's me. And on one of my many campsites, and yeah, they have 10 of the most poisonous snakes out there, so you have to be quite clever to sort of avoid them, especially when you're an idiot like me. But so there you are. That's me again, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But I don't know why I used to stand like that. Probably because I was so tall and my back was hurting. Interesting, but true. And yeah, anyway, I used to do a lot of training in those days. That's the SMB Gymnasium, and this is the Rundle Mall in Adelaide. They had a fountain there, and these balls, these chromium balls, are very famous. You can see the sort of time period is 1980s massively because of all the clothing people are wearing. But they were the balls of Rundle Mall, you know. And that was just some fountain. I think it was a library or something. And there's a seagull. And there's another seagull. And I think that's the Adelaide War Memorial, if my memory serves me. That's most certainly Kedron again. as I recognised the streets. It was very busy, and that's the youth hostel at Kedron, the YHA, you know, where I used to work and do a bit of work for them. And that's a typical street scene of Kedron in the 1980s of Australia. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know why I didn't get my... So, okay, shout out to a friend, Steel Helmet Stan. He's been to Australia. This is Fuzzy, the chap called Fuzzy, and this is another Ruth. And I don't know who the little Ben is. I can't remember now. But Fuzzy and Ruth were an item. You know, they were, and that was some kid that was her daughter's kid. It was quite complicated, but whatever. People are people. And they took us one day to this waterfall, which is lovely. And this is the waterfall they took us to. But no, Stan, mate, you've been to Australia. You know the gig. You went and got a residency, which is all good. There's a gym I used to train. Again, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's stood with his back arched. I don't know why. I think it was back pain. I think it was. But we used to sort of hang about gyms trying to pump ourselves with iron, you know. Just I was yeah, just trying to build myself up. I think back in the day, you know, it was that was what it was. It was just gymnasium stuff, innit? But there's Fuzzy Ruth, and I can't remember the other bloke's name now. That this chap in the middle, I can't remember his name. Ruth was lovely. She was very, very, very charming. She was actually, I know it sounds hard to believe, but she was actually, in that picture, she was actually 70 years old. Weird to think, isn't it? But she was very, very, very elderly, but she looked very, very, very young. Fuzzy was funny. He was like a hippie. He used to smoke. He used to have this bubbling bong. In the mornings, all you'd hear was this bong going, and then he would appear all stoned out of his head, you know. Real hippies, you know, real hippie type people. And I used to live in a caravan at the time, which was this thing with an awning, where I was on their farm, staying with them, which was amusing. But that's typical Australia, mate. In outback Burke sort of thing. And that's the waterfall I was telling you about that we went to visit that day. Very, very tall waterfalls. Smashing, wonderful memories. Loved it. What are you talking about, mate? What are you going on about? Anyway, that's the end of that one, I think. But and thanks ever so much for watching, as always. I very much appreciate it. Cheers.